I'm Nick Coombey, and as part of the Galloway Glens project, we've been looking at place names along the coast. And some meanings for place names are lost in time, while others are entirely fictional, like this one here, still marked on maps as Gage's Loup. Gauger is a customs man and Loup is Scots for leap, and it's based on the novel of Guy Mannering, and where Kennedy was pushed to his death, an enterprising folk from Kirkcudbright thought, we'll make an attraction for visitors and say this is where it happened. We're in the mouth of Kirkcudbright Bay, and the Galloway Glens area stretches right the way along this coast to that furthest point there, which is called Gypsy Point. So here at the mouth of Kirkcudbright Bay, we're at a place that's on old maps is called Witch Wife's Haven, and today it's known as Flint Bay, and it's an ideal place for sailing ships to wait for the tides to change before they sailed into the river. Here is called Witch Wife's Haven, and the reason is that I think that this rock stack here is called a witch. It's certainly the case in Port Patrick. There's a North Witch Rock and a South Witch Rock, which are both sea stacks. And so this is probably called the haven for boats where the Witch Rock is found. Here we are at Flint Bay, and the reason it's called Flint Bay is very obvious when you get here. Everywhere there are flints. But this is odd because the geology is not flints. This is a sandstone laid down in a deep ocean 440 million years ago. We call it grey-wacky, and it was laid down and then thrust up into these vertical layers that you see everywhere along the Galloway coast. So why are there flints here? Well, the story is that in 1816 there was a shipwreck just out here, and the ship, the Ellen and Agnes, was carrying beef, hides and flint, and these flints are all that remain from the tragic wreck of the ship where 3 people died. We're here in the mouth of Kirkcudbright Bay looking out over Little Ross Island, and this stretch of coast here has got the strange name of Sapphire, and it's probably not called sapphire because it's so green, although it is very green, but it's probably derived from the word rock samphire, which is this amazing plant here. This plant is really a warm-loving plant and is more often found in the Mediterranean, and this is at about its northern range in the UK, and its name is derived from the French for Saint Peter, the patron saint of fishermen, and that's because this is a plant that really only grows on the coast, and people used to pick it in the past and make pickles out of it, and it's still something that people eat today. So as part of World Oceans Day, there are many fascinating things to discover, and dog whelks are one of them. The interesting thing about dog whelks is that apparently they have a horrible smell. So that when mussels smell the dog whelks approaching, they can't run away. So what they do is they fire out bisis threads and stick it onto the dog whelk. And then they pull those threads in and turn it over, and it's tracked like Gulliver and dies. And that's the only defensive mechanism the mussels have against being gobbled up by a dog whelk. They don't travel very far, and they diet mostly on either barnacles or mussels, and they creep up on barnacles and mussels and they've got a tongue that's a bit like a file, and they rasp a round hole into the mussel, and then they squirt some enzymes in and turn the mussel into soup, and then they slick it out, they slurp it all out, and that's what they live on.
Why they're called dog whelks?
I don't know, dog is usually used to describe something which isn't very nice, so they probably don't taste that good.
Are they rare?
They're very, very common, and they're all sorts of different colours and different shapes. So here we've got all white ones, but in other places you might go and find that there are black ones, orange ones, stripy ones even, and they quite often are associated with different areas And the other thing about them is that they grow into different shapes depending on where they are. So in sheltered areas, they go quite long and thin, but in more rough seas, you find that they're almost round. And the thinking is that in sheltered areas, they don't get hit by the waves so much, so they don't get pushed off the rocks, where in rougher areas, the roundness means that they can stick onto the rocks better.
Can you eat them?
I've never tried eating them. Do you want one? So right here we have a beautiful plant. It's damp and horrible at the moment, but when the sun comes out, it opens out to be a beautiful little yellow flower, and it's called rock rose. And rock rose is the food plant of the northern brown argus, which is a really rare butterfly which you find on the coast here at Kirkcudbright. And the caterpillars eat these leaves. They lay one little egg on each leaf, and then the caterpillars grow, and you'll find it later in the year, sort of about June, July time really. Juniper is one of the plants that we usually associate with mountains, but it also grows on the rugged coast of Galloway. And here in Kirkcudbright Bay, we can find some juniper growing on the rocks there, just below where that yellow gorse is. A plant that is probably special because of its association with gin and cooking. There are lots of seaweeds we find on the shore at Kirkcudbright Bay. Some of them are quite difficult to identify, but others are really easy. Like this one here, this is sawrack, and you can see that it's a brown seaweed that has teeth along the edge, a bit like a saw. There are many seaweeds in Kirkcudbright Bay, and some you don't often see because they're only exposed at very low tides, like now. This one is one of the kelps, and it grasps onto stones with this holdfast here. And different creatures live in it, and also seaweeds. Here you've got a red seaweed growing in within the holdfast. World Oceans Day is not just about protecting our seas, but also our coasts. And here we've got beautiful flowers that grow on the coast. Here we've got thrift, pink plant that grows almost everywhere, different habitats on the coast. Behind it we've got sea mayweed, and also here some yellow bird's foot trefoil.
Bird's foot trefoil's got another name, hasn't it, Nick?
Yeah, if you can see there that it's got a kind of red tinge to it, and some people call it eggs and bacon because of that yellow and red colour.